Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone in the franchise world. My name is Paul Segreto, and this is Franchise Today. Today is Wednesday, November 2nd, 2016. Boy, this year has flown by fast. And, of course, I have my co-host, Stan Friedman, on from Atlanta.
Hey, Paul. How are you, buddy?
Good. I mean, it is going by so fast, Stan. I mean, I see in Facebook memories popping up every week shows that we did over a year ago. I think today Jennifer Cushell was on with us a year ago today. I mean,
wow.
it seems like just yesterday. Where is this year gone?
Well, Paul, I don't know. I mean, it just went too quick for me to even know that it happened, you know, so... And I think that we keep saying this, but I'm starting to feel like it's probably just a function of our age, Paul. I think there's a quick, as we age, personally, I think time moves faster. But I can tell you, you say, where is it gone? I can't even account for it. We're coming up on Thanksgiving in a couple of weeks, Paul. Come on.
I know it. So without further ado, why don't you bring us through the front of the house so we can get to this week's guest?
Well, for certain. So a couple of things that caught my eye this week, not the least of which was IFA has found a new home for the CFE community to meet on Facebook. So according to the IFA, they've launched a Facebook page, and it's designed as a place for candidates and existing CFEs to be able to connect, share knowledge, ask questions, and yet another address that's franchise relevant on Facebook and dedicated to the CFE community. And speaking of Facebook, Paul, I think you saw something on Facebook that we might want to share with the audience.
Yeah, it's interesting. We knew it was coming down. The IFA announced new organizational structure to meet growing challenges and opportunities. And a quote from Robert Crescenti, the IFA president and CEO, says, "In anticipation of the next presidential administration, these changes demonstrate how IFA will accelerate its long-term growth in terms of revenue and influence over the critical issues of importance to the franchise business model and the small business community." And some of the announcements were Scott Lair promoted to Executive VP, Development, Marketing, and Conferences. Matt Haller been promoted to Senior Vice President of Government Relations and Public Affairs, and he'll also oversee all of IFA's lobbying, political strategy, grassroots advocacy, and public affairs initiatives to protect and promote franchising. Elizabeth Taylor has been promoted to Chief Legal Officer and Chief of Staff. Paul Rocchio, big friend of the show, has been promoted to Vice President, Development and Member Services. Greg Cook, another friend of the show, has been promoted to Vice President, Advertising and Strategic Partnerships. And also Jeff Hanscom, Lynette James, Jenna Weisberg, Sarah Williamson, Nick Johns, and Shelby Shaw all have received promotions in various positions as support. So really a great job by the IFA. I love their forward thinking. Certainly congratulations to all the individuals, and also I like to thank the IFA, obviously, for recognizing these people's value and commitment to the future of franchising. I, for one, and I know you feel the same way, Stan, thank the entire IFA team.
Absolutely, and my personal congratulations to each and every one of the promoted members of the IFA family, our extended franchise family, and I'm really proud of every one of them. And every one of those team members has been an influential part in my life here, both at FRM, but as well just as part of the overall franchising community at large. We change shirts every now and then, Paul, but we are really very fortunate that we get to collect some of the people along the way that become instrumental in our lives. And our IFA has always been a cornerstone of that linkage for me. And the team at IFA, just like emerging franchisors, some of those guys who we rely on juggle an awful lot of balls and maybe make it look easy, the things that they do. But when you consider Ann Pudiak and Lynette James and the conference team and all that they do to put conferences on and the convention, it just looks so easy. But, that's professional people doing what they do. and doing it well, and we're just real lucky to have them in our lives.
But Stan, I also want to, and I agree with you, but I want to thank, too, individuals like yourself that, serve on the board, as well as other individuals, and, of course, the leadership on the board. Aziz Hashim, I can't believe this, only a couple of months left, and he'll be out, and Shelly's son will be in. But, all the people like yourself that dedicate so much time to, leadership activities. I mean, people myself, I'm only on committees and stuff, and you guys go a step further and above. So I definitely want to give a special thanks to all those on the board and especially the board's leadership.
Well, thanks for the promotion, Paul, but, I just got to clean that up a little bit. I'm on the supplier board. I'm not on the IFA board, so it's just point of information for the purposes of clarity. But thank you anyway. I appreciate the acknowledgement. Hey, a couple other things upcoming, Paul. We've got one last IFA event left this year, and that's coming up on November 16th through the 18th. It is the Emerging Franchisor Conference in New Orleans. I'm proud to be sponsoring and participating. In fact, I'll be moderating a panel with Scott Jones from Ben Soft Pretzels and Josh Wall from Christian Brothers Automotive, talking about sourcing, managing leads, moving them through your funnel and getting deals closed. So I'm looking forward to seeing those guys and everyone else that will be participating in November in NOLA, New Orleans, November 16th, 17th, 18th. If you're not already registered, it's not too late. Also want to give congratulations while you're waving the flag high for IFA staffers. I think it's only appropriate that we give kudos and high fives to DLA Piper, named once again the Franchise Law Firm of the Year in 2016. For 11 straight years, the Who's Who named DLA Piper the Global Law Firm of the Year, saying that in 2015 we have no hesitation in once again declaring DLA Piper the leading firm in the world in this area. Chambers USA says the firm stands head and shoulders above competitors on the global stage. You and me both know, Paul, there are a great many franchise attorneys who I would call best in class, but a great many of those don't have the footprint of a DLA Piper worldwide. So this is a big honor, and it's the 11th straight year, and that's just got to be a tough task to do that once, much less 11 times in consecutive years. So congratulations to all of our friends at DLA Piper. And the last thing I want to call out...
Stan, wait 1 second, because I got to ride this wave. I was asked yesterday, and I'm awaiting confirmation to speak to the franchise practice of DLA Piper on November 17th. So I'm excited about that, and like I said, awaiting confirmation of that. But I was honored to be asked. Nice.
Congratulations, Paul.
Thank you.
And the last thing I wanted to call out is, and this probably will be a great lead-in to our guest today, IFA Insider this week asks, is your business ready? IFA is offering overtime compliance tool. The IFA is offering a new software tool to help franchisors and franchisees comply with the new U.S. Department of Labor overtime regulation that goes into effect on December 1st. The new overtime compliance tool, brought to you by the IFA, will combine the easy-to-use technology platform of Compliance HR with expertise from Littler Mendelson, yet another law firm, Paul. We are just 30 days out, less than 30 days out from one of the most dramatic changes to the overtime wage law in decades. And so if you did not get to attend the webinar that IFA put on earlier this week talking about this, I'm sure you can find more information and links to the Overtime Compliance Tool Navigator from the IFA website or from this week's IFA Insider. And Paul, I'm going to park it there. You know what? Maybe one more quick note. We've been honoring and calling out veterans all year long in celebration of VetFran's 25th anniversary. So I wanted to do that again today and just say veteran franchisees have been featured in the October issue of Franchising World with 3 success stories featuring Steve Rote of the Paul Davis brand, Window Genie's Mike Engel, and CertaPro's Cliff Cornell, all of whom have shared in that byline article information about why veterans make outstanding business owners. So if you've still got that October issue sitting on your coffee table, pop it open and have a look at 3 tremendous veterans succeeding in bringing some of their life skills from the military to the world of service and franchising. And that's the front of the house, Paul.
Thanks, Stan. I want to remind everybody also of the upcoming Franchise Brokers Association Conference and Expo, where I will be, because it's the same time as the Emerging Brands Conference, and I have yet to find a way of being in 2 places at one time. But anyway, it is open to even those in franchise sales, third-party sellers or franchise organizations that are not members of the FBA. If you want more info, just drop me a line. You know, Stan, today's guest, Jason Leverant, President and COO of AtWork Group, a leading U.S. staffing firm. This is obviously a hot topic, as you talked about, you know, overtime rules, NLRB, I mean, all the things we have been talking about. This is a gentleman who's well-versed on cutting-edge solutions and initiatives needed to combat those strategic issues facing not only the staffing industry, but, of course, franchising. And I know he's been in the media of late, and want to talk to him about, you know, understanding the challenges of the recent joint employer ruling. So without further ado, welcome to Franchise Today, Jason.
Hey, good morning, Paul, Stan. Thank you guys so much for having me on the show today.
It's a pleasure.
It
Wonderful.
Really is.
What a
pleasure.
great introduction as well. It's exciting to be able to play in the franchising space and the staffing space, which is you know, we play in the employment world all day long, and so we get the front lines of all the great challenges and opportunities that you guys have been discussing. So yeah, looking forward to talking about it.
Great. So leading up to, you know, your brand, and we'll talk about that in a second, tell us a little bit about you, your background, and what led you up to the AtWork Group.
Definitely. Well, you know, my background didn't in franchising per se. I was actually, well, I guess it did in a bit. I was actually working for a golf manufacturer. We were actually a licensee in the Dunlop Sports Group family. So working under a licensing-based model where we owned a brand, and I worked in the marketing side of it, promoting the Dunlop brand in the country, was kind of my first, you know, kind of teaser or steps into the world of kind of brand management and development. And you know, with that opportunity gave me, you know, some skills and opportunities to really grow, and the ability to really build on a brand that was already internationally known, but really under-recognized in the U.S. But with all things, you know, change happens and geography and moves happen and such that set me in a role that I kind of put my other foot into the arena of the staffing industry and temporary staffing, and working for Ronstad for 4 or 5 years, developing territories and working in a sales and development role. And then finally leading up to leading the national sales team for AtWork, and I took that role in 2007, actually. So my experience in the franchising world began in 2007, working on the front of the house, if you will, working our consumer side, driving, you know, sales and recruiting activities for our branch locations across the country. And that's where, you know, coming full circle from my experience with Dunlop, it gave me the opportunity to bring those skills with, you know, the staffing world and in the marketing development world and manufacturing and licensing together under the AtWork umbrella. So it's been a really exciting ride with AtWork. You know, I've worked in a variety of roles. Obviously, starting in 2007, I got to experience the interesting economic changes that happened in 2008 and 2009 that many of us unfortunately had to survive through. But we did it. We battened down the hatches. We really found a tremendous amount of efficiencies. You know, we squeezed everybody for what they could produce and perform, and really. Again, rode the storm out and came out the other side. I feel stronger for it, and it allowed us to really kind of you know, trial by fire, refine our brand, refine our processes operationally. You know, find where we could had holes and efficiencies, plug those holes, and really grow and develop to be the organization we are today. So I actually took the helm. AtWork is a privately owned firm. It's owned by a man by the name of John Hall. He's a genius in the staffing world, extremely smart, knows you know, really how to grow and develop a franchise system from really nothing, from a brand, from an idea in his mind. But he's kind of taken a step back and said, listen, Jason, I want you to take the helm and bring us to the next level. And in 2011, I stepped into the role at the end of 2011, stepped in the role of President and Chief Operating Officer of the company, and have been given the opportunity to really look at everything we do every day and look to improve it, look to increase our franchisee satisfaction, increase our operational effectiveness, our technology, really all the resources, all the services, all the things that we provide to our franchisees. We've looked at and we've improved, and we continue to improve every day. So it's exciting to be able to be a part of it and really experience the growth that we've had over the last 3 years. It's been really an exciting, real wild ride, really.
So Jason, tell us from the perspective of clients, what makes AtWork such a leading resource for them in this just what lack of a better word, to me at times is almost tumultuous. And I think it's just because of lack of understanding of all the differences, all the different things that are going on with respect to employers, employees, staffing, Affordable Care Act. I mean, all of these things.
Oh, yeah.
What makes AtWork Group stand out in the mind of clients?
When you think about it, it's funny because we truly do in the staffing world, we serve two masters. I always liken the staffing industry. This is, everybody knows me for this analogy, that staffing is kind of like a game of tug of war. You've got two demanding areas that are pulling your time and resources. You've got that demand of the client side, and then we have our talent, we have our employees. So we're looking to sell, if you will. We have double the challenges because we're not only having to sell our customers, our clients who we're actually sending invoices to and providing the services to, we also, in this job market, when you have unemployment rates as low as they are and a tremendous skills gap throughout the U.S., you've got to sell candidates as well. You've got to sell the talent side of it just as hard. And I would say that component of it really is where we excel. I mean, on both sides of it, both client and talent. In staffing, there's specific kind of value propositions that a staffing firm can bring to the table to an end customer and to an employee. And when you look at what we do as a service organization, because staffing truly is a service, we're not selling a tangible asset. We're not selling a good that has a specific spec. For me, I'm not selling a golf club that has a loft and a lie and a certain type of shaft. Mm-hmm. This is a person. This is a matching type service where we're selecting the best candidate available for a job that matches them correctly, and we do it in a timely manner. So our typical value propositions to our end customers, focus on cost savings, time savings, the flexibility of using a staffing firm, the risk mitigation, which I think we're going to go into from the standpoint of the federal and state governments. They've made our value proposition on the risk mitigation component so much more valuable because of things like ACA, because of EEO law, because of FLSA law, the overtime exemption changes there. This deal with the different NLRB rulings and co-employment. I know we're going to talk about that a bit as well. All these different components, all these different things have really driven companies, have driven that value home even harder for companies, our clients, to use staffing firms. Then on top of that, when you couple what we do at AtWork as a brand and the level of service that we provide, I can test, I said it at our national franchise conference, franchise owners do it better. And it's 100% the case. Statistically proven that a locally owned business, in general, services better than a company-owned or big box type organization. And we not only have, we can stake those claims in the ground, but we've got stats to back it. We've actually participated in client satisfaction and talent satisfaction surveys on a national level. Innovero does a wonderful job in this best of staffing survey that they do on an annual basis. And we're going on our 5th year. If we secure, we're actually, the due date's next week, but if we secure the award for the 5th year straight, we go into their diamond status. But we're hitting Net Promoter scores, and if you're not familiar with Net Promoter methodology, look it up. It's a fabulous way to track customer satisfaction, client satisfaction specifically, because service, again, it's an intangible. It's something you have to gauge and adjust and really constantly watch. But we track Net Promoter scores, and we rank higher on an NPS basis than many of the top performing companies in the world when it comes to client satisfaction and employee satisfaction. And we hands down rank higher than pretty much any other staffing firm out there. It's pretty exciting to see the levels of service that we see our franchise owners provide. And because of that higher level of service, we see enhanced, better than average profit margins. We see better than average growth ratios. We just see better than average everything, which is really exciting to see, and why we've had such great success and growth over the last 3 years.
So help the audience out, if you would, with a question that plagues, I think a lot of people get a little bit confused about the difference between a staffing firm versus a recruiting firm. Temporary employees versus full-time employees. Position that for us a little with some definition or clarity of the differences between the two.
Of course, and that's an excellent question, because there is a tremendous amount of confusion. So your traditional temporary staffing or contingent work is an hourly based work that you as an employee would be working for the staffing firm. Or if you're a client of the staffing firm, we're providing employees to you, but they're not your employees. They're the employees of the staffing firm. And you're billed an hourly rate, a flat hourly rate that's all inclusive of taxes, all inclusive of workers' compensation, insurances, et cetera. And basically when that job is through or complete, that employee leaves your site, you receive an invoice and pay it, and that's it. You wash your hands clean of it, you're done. It's effectively a vendor-based service. Recruitment-based services or search services, or some people call them headhunting or permanent placement or direct hire, that typically targets the mid to upper level management. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. But it's if you go to a recruiter, let's say I'm looking for a role, I talk with a recruiter, they reach out to their customer base, their network of contacts on the client side, and they find an organization that's interested in hiring me directly. Well, they basically pay a matchmaker, and that client would take on me as an individual directly onto their payroll, and that client would pay a recruitment fee, typically a percentage of first-year salary, to that recruiter for those services rendered. And that business is growing aggressively because of the skills gap, because of the talent demand, because the value, you're able to leverage the value of somebody's network. And there's many recruiters out there, headhunters out there, that are very focused in their approach, and they build networks that are very, very focused. So they're able to leverage a large that network and reach a large population. So, radio hosts, there may be somebody, and there probably is some recruiter out there that specializes in radio hosts or behind-the-scenes radio setup professionals. Because of that ability to really be very targeted and focused, you can assure yourself as a client the value is you're getting somebody that could be the top in their industry.
So help us understand, with that as a framework, how is it that some people fall into one bucket versus the other? Who would be a candidate if I were a restaurant operator, if I were a franchisee, and I'm looking to get past all this noise that we're going to get into more depth about with NLRB and joint employment? Why wouldn't I just look to a firm like yours to say, hey, you be the employer? I'm just, you're my client or I'm your client, and I don't have to put myself into any of these crosshairs.
Do you want a job selling for us? Because that's exactly what what we do. That's really the value proposition that we bring to the table. Is, listen, guys, prior to the recession, really the staffing industry has always gone forward with the value proposition of, hey, let's take the weight of recruiting and placement and all these burdens off your HR team. They have so much more to do. Let's help you with this. Let's make it faster. We can be more responsive. We can flex your workforce with the ebb and flow of your business demands. But at the end of the day, and really in the past 8 years that we've seen a very, very heavy legislative body and a lot of movement on laws that are more employee-friendly than employer-friendly, that really the value proposition on that risk mitigation side, where we can come in and say, you know what, we're going to take all that off your plate. We are the employer of record. We're the employee who's responsible for workers' compensation, for liabilities, for Affordable Care Act health benefits. We have to worry about the overtime components. We have to worry about minimum wage, and all that falls, the onus, the burden falls on us as the staffing company to bear that weight. And for that, obviously we make a profit in what we do, but what is that profit worth? It's like the MasterCard commercial that shows, all these different things are line item cost, and the last one is priceless, right? I mean, for us, that's the priceless element of it. You can't really peg a value on that. And so it speaks to the different, for us, it's the different levels in the decision-making process, who we're selling to, where those value propositions are really are felt the most. And typically your C-level, your owners of small and medium-sized business feel that level. They understand that side of it. And that's where we're able to really make the most amount of impact. And for, we've seen our industry grow just leaps and bounds, not just AtWork. we've seen the staffing industry grow tremendously over the last 5-6 years. The recession was a very challenging time, but post-recession, with the ramp up and build up beyond that, and the leveraging of temporary staff and contingent workforce, that value being realized there, coupled with the federal legislation, state legislation, paid sick leave. I don't know if we mentioned that, but paid sick leave is a huge piece that a lot of people are concerned with as well, and seeing sweeping across the nation. These different components are really driving people to the staffing industry, and in turn driving franchise entrepreneurs to look at staffing as a valid franchise opportunity for them to start. So we've seen some really exciting growth and movement on our franchising side because of that. And you mentioned the two different types of staffing. We have 4 unique franchise models, and we capture the different types of candidates that have interest in recruitment, have interest in temporary. But honestly, the temporary side, the contingent side, is at this point in time, where the growth is happening. It's really exciting to see that momentum behind us. So.
Hey, Jason, is there, and if there is, what is it, a difference between staffing and PEO?
Yes, there is a significant difference between staffing and PEO, and it's primarily in who actually serves as the employer of record. In a staffing relationship, we are the sole employer. We are the one that comes in and says, we're responsible for this employee completely. Now, there's inherently some co-employment issues because you have an employee at a client site and you've got a client supervisor directing that employee at times. But ultimately, at the end of the day, we stand up as the sole employer for any kind of liability-based situations. In a PEO relationship, it is a true co-employment. It's a acknowledged co-employment relationship where the PEO is actually using the end client's EIN typically to process those employees in their behalf. So they're your employees still, and those liabilities still fall back on you. So the PEO is a great way. It's a great vehicle if you want to limit the burdens in-house for payroll processing tasks and things of that sort. If you want to be able to implement a benefit strategy for your internal staff and you don't have a lot of turnover or movement, you don't have the need for a flexible side of it. But at the end of the day, the liability is still on your plate. You're not drawing that line in the sand or building that wall between you to mitigate risk like you would in a staffing firm-client relationship. So.
Well, good. Thank you for clarifying that. That's what I thought it meant to be, but certainly I'm sure a lot of our listeners might have had that same question, so thanks for clarifying that.
Definitely.
So with that in mind, if I'm a small business and I am working with a staffing company, give us a little bit of insight before we go to the mid-show break as to control issues. I'm managing my employees. They're your employees. How does that work? How does the communications occur if and when there is a particular problem with an employee?
Exactly. That's the key. That's the difference that separates a poor staffing firm from a good staffing firm, a good staffing firm from a great staffing firm, is that communication. Because it is a delicate kind of scenario. We have employees there are employees as a staffing firm on a customer site. Let's say if you have a tech that's running the background for the podcast today as a temporary associate, you're directing them, you're telling them, hey, I need you to do this or that, but they're technically my employees. So that's proper communication on the front end with the end customer, with the client, and with the employee on different scenarios for incident response, on different scenarios, call-ins or late calls. There's all kinds of different scenarios that you're going to want to discuss and coach with. And you refine that model in our franchise and through proper training and instruction on how to do those things properly, but it's all about proper communication and follow-through. It's all about quality checks. It's all about staying top of mind with your customer, even if they're your active customer, and with your employees as well, reminding them that conversations around pay rate increases or time off or whatever the case may be needs to come through us. Anything needs to come through us as the employer, because at the end of the day, it is confusing at times for even the employees that are there if you don't communicate properly. But again, that's where we separate ourselves, and we're able to, again, show that through our Net Promoter Scores and things of that sort, because we have local owners that are truly taking the time and efforts to make it very clear to our employees, to make it very clear to the clients how the relationship works properly. Because if you don't do it properly, then you potentially expose yourself to risks that unnecessarily that you don't need. So,
this is Franchise Today. I'm Stan Friedman, along with Paul Segreto, and we're speaking today with Jason Leverant, President and COO of AtWork Group. Franchise Today is brought to you by the Franchise Foundry, with more than 30 years' experience bringing emerging brands to market with the kind of growth that comes with experience, healthy growth, sustainable growth. The Franchise Foundry provides their clients with both coaching and consulting, a hybrid approach. This fosters more effective solutions for their clients as well as their franchisees. The team at the Franchise Foundry is rich in practical, hands-on experience and expertise in general business management, operational and change management, and is skilled and proficient in digital marketing, franchise recruitment, and of course, franchise development. Let them assist you with creating roadmaps for potential mergers and acquisitions and the guidance needed to navigate those courses. Learn more about Paul Segreto and the Franchise Foundry, along with their expanding list of clients, at www.franchisefoundry.com. Franchise Today also brought to you by FRM Solutions, offering best-in-class CRM and document management software designed specifically for franchising. If your CRM doesn't do everything you need it to do to manage communications and relationships with prospective and existing franchisees, it may be time to give FRM a look. With FRM, you can track all candidate and franchisee conversations, emails sent and received by anyone on your team, and even store and track text messaging to and from franchise prospects. FRM Solutions never long waits for expensive upgrades to long outdated systems when you're using FRM. Maybe it's time to give them a look, and to access FRM couldn't be easier from the cloud or from directly within your Outlook inbox. Hey, struggle no more. Get down to earth with practical solutions that require no long-term contracts, no commitments. Start tracking and managing everything, including your text messages to and from prospects with FRM. Everything you want and need, no excuses, no solutions. Take a demo and see for yourself on the web at frmsolutions.com. So we've kind of set the table for an awful lot of information, and we've learned a lot in the first half of today's podcast about the difference between staffing and recruiting, the fine art of communication, which is usually at the root of the differences between things that are understood or misunderstood. I think a question I'd like to unpack a little bit further, though, is, Jason, there's a fine line between a franchisor doing what for years was always deemed to be the proper thing that a responsible franchisor does. It helps direct and give direction to and guidance to franchisees in how to grow their businesses. And yet in today's environment, some of those commands and some of that, what I would deem to be appropriate communication, can become the centerpiece for an accusatory finger being pointed saying, oh, you see that? You're telling them what to do. You're wearing two hats in your business in that you're experts in managing staffing relationships, but you're a franchise company too. So you're really at a pivot point seeing this situation from not one but two perspectives. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's something that I've talked with our attorney at length about, and he said it really, really best. He said, listen, Jason, you've been in the staffing industry for 15 years. You've been living and breathing co-employment and the risk of joint employer relationships for that entire time. Think about how you guys mitigated and managed risk in that sense, and then let's apply it to our franchise. And when we did a deep dive in our franchise model, we saw that we already really had. But at the end of the day, many franchisors out there really don't have the luxury, the pleasure, I guess, if I'm a glutton for punishment, the pleasure to have dealt with this for so long. It's one of those where, at the end of the day, it's easy to sit back and say, oh, it's easy. Just make sure you look at how you communicate with your franchise owners, your contractual language in your franchise agreements and disclosure documents. You need to make sure there's proper indemnification provisions laid out. I mean, there's a bulleted list of things that you can do to try to mitigate that risk, but you've got to realize that if somebody is going to sue or if somebody's going to try to be litigious, they're going to try. The best way to do is to prepare properly, and that's where I think everybody should really take a deep dive look at what their operations look like. So just when we were discussing how we handle and work with our franchise owners, we even made some slight tweaking and adjustments to our franchise development side. And how we work with our franchise owners at a daily basis to try to mitigate that risk as well. Even though we've lived and breathed this space for so long, didn't mean we could also polish that process up a little bit further and give ourselves a little bit more of a kind of a break or leeway when it comes to that some of these recent rulings we've seen and the exposures we've seen. But the thing is, and I guess where I'm getting with that is that there's always going to be some inherent risk for that. That's obviously where the government is positioning, unless we see some significant changes over the next few years. But with recent decisions that have made, unfortunately, it's driving us to have to put up these almost barriers to communication, almost limitations to what we can actually do. But we've got to, at the end of the day, protect the sanctity of the franchise brand. So again, proper indemnification provisions in your franchise agreement will do wonders. It will help. It's obviously hard to implement after the fact if you haven't got it in there. So that goes back to proper communication and relationships with your franchise owners to help them understand why these provisions need to be in place. And that's where
are these things that could be updated in an ops manual for those who may have already updated their FTD?
I'm not an attorney, but I'll tell you right now, knowing the depth that a true, if you want to uphold indemnification provisions, I feel like these need to be contractual in nature, either an addendum to a franchise agreement. But I may be wrong. Again, I'm not an attorney, but I would think that this would have to be in something more formal than an ops manual update. So. But at that point in time too, and how you communicate, and I think you guys have all seen the headlines. I mean, there's ways you can also mitigate if you're not able to roll something like that out through changing your channels of communication, who you communicate to, how in your ops manual, changing enforcement procedures and what you require an owner to enforce versus what you enforce. It's really just playing around with that side of it and putting those responsibilities on the owner directly. And then ensuring, I guess you say, compliance through proper checks. And, again, going back to communication and being top of mind, being there in front of it all and not waiting for something to happen and trying to defend yourself after the fact. Yeah.
Before we get into the part of the discussion about the AtWork Group franchise opportunity, I want to ask a question. I want to preface it by something that was given to me. It said, the confusion about this issue obviously is not new. In fact, the first joint employer conflict to make the headline news involving the NLRB was actually in July 2014, and of course concerning McDonald's and about 30 McDonald's franchisees. The fast food giant franchisees were accused of using illegal tactics against employees who were protesting for a higher minimum wage. The NLRB found that McDonald's could be held accountable as a joint employer, along with the accused franchisees, of unfair labor practices against their employees. The fear about this particular dispute revolves around how the NLRB will finally rule and will have major repercussions in the franchise world. You talked about, Stan asked a question about, how to protect. Does it go in the operations manual? You answered in a very succinct way, which I appreciate. But take us to the practical side of it. You're the staffing company. You're working with a franchisor, so to speak. What advice would you give them from a practical standpoint? Forget about the CYA for a second. The practical standpoint on how franchisees should be, or directly with the franchisees, how the franchisees should be interacting and working with their employees, because there's got to be a practical side of this.
Oh, exactly. Well, when you think about the, in that instance, what was potentially happening, let's assume, I don't know, let's assume they were guilty, or let's assume I have a franchisee who is violating some employment law in their hiring practices, whether it be through improper interview questions or whatever the case may be. Well, I would look at it and say, this franchisee, I don't think they're doing it willfully. I wouldn't assume they're doing it willfully because of our screening and who we've allowed into the system. I see an opportunity or area for training, an opportunity to look at, okay, are we providing enough employment law training? Are we providing enough guidance and direction, and hiring and onboarding activities for their staff that they can use or leverage, whether it be through webinar-based trainings, whether it be ongoing update trainings that we provide, kind of train-the-trainer type models to our owners that they can downstream to their staff that they're managing. Because at the end of the day, for us in our franchise model, it includes compliant hiring practices. Well, if they're not following that, if they're violating laws in their hiring practices, well, they're violating our franchise agreement as well. So it goes back. You are correct. I mean, from an operations perspective, operationally and practically, they're not only violating the law, but they're not following our franchise model at that point. And ours just happens to be in staffing, so that is part of our concept. McDonald's is a restaurateur. They have a different model, but at the end of the day, operationally for those guys, they hire people just like we hire people. We just do more of it. Well, probably not more than McDonald's, but.
So let's dive into a little bit more about the franchise side of your business, and
sure.
Let's talk a little bit about who it is that fits the profile. What kind of attributes and skill sets and personality traits would be successful? What kind of prior business experience would the ideal franchisee be coming from and bringing to your organization as a franchisee?
Sure, I appreciate that. So AtWork, we really focus primarily on an owner-operator type model initially. Obviously, as you grow and expand, the owners are spread a little bit thinner, but initially our core type owner would be somebody who is interested in getting their rolling their sleeves up and getting their hands dirty, getting involved in the business. We don't try to typically target anybody who's passive or absentee. We want somebody who's actively engaged. We like to see an owner who steps into the role of a sales and business development role to start. So they have to be willing to get out there in their marketplace. And so we're in our role, it's a B2B based sales model. So you're talking about actively calling, visiting, emailing, social networking, networking opportunities through Chamber of Commerce events and things of that sort. So we're looking for somebody who's got that personality type where they will succeed in their endeavors there and can be successful and have a willingness to do that. Because we've seen in time after time that the owners who are more actively involved or actively willing to participate on that side of the house really excel. They do better. And because when you think about it, we're selling on both sides. I mentioned the game of tug of war, one side pulling on our sales client development and the other side pulling on the recruitment and talent development. In this point in time, you're still selling talent. You're selling your employees of why they should come to work for you. So it's a sales role on both sides. And so we're looking for owners who have backgrounds, possibly backgrounds in sales, operations, successful leadership of organizations. We're looking for somebody who's willing to follow the model. I think everybody is, but for us, it is a very much a model to follow, and it's a service that we provide. And if it's not followed properly, you lose your value proposition at that point. What differentiates you from the competition in the market?
So the candidate comes through what kind of a process? How does somebody even find you? How do they discover that there's a franchise opportunity available with you? And then what kind of a process do you guide them through to learn more?
Definitely. Well, we have our kind of channels out there and everywhere we can really find. Primarily, obviously, we utilize the Internet through our AtWorkFranchise.com website. It's a great way to gain more information about us. We're actually in the process of re-updating that and throwing a lot more dollars into broadcasting it through the different paid click campaigns through Google, through social boosting of posts and things of that sort on Facebook and Twitter. We feel like that's obviously the direction we see a lot of entrepreneurs moving towards, and then we see the traditional channels through paid-based portals, which I'm not a huge fan of, but they serve their purpose. And obviously, I am a big fan of our broker partners and our consultant partners that do help us refer business our way. So we really try to look. I want it to basically look and feel like when somebody searches for a staffing franchise opportunity, that we're the guys to go to. And there aren't a lot of staffing franchise opportunities out there. I can probably name them all off on one hand. But I feel like when we look at the value that we bring to the table, when we look at our costing and what we provide in support and resources, I'll steal a boxing quote, pound for pound, we're the best available staffing franchise in the U.S. here.
So to that point, AtWork Group has been listed in the Franchise Times Top 200 list. You've achieved third consecutive Inc. 5000 ranking. You're achieving double-digit growth in gross revenue and number of units. So to the end of the naming the other brands within the staffing space, what would you say is the one differentiating factor between your brand and the others?
Well, I can be a bit cocky and say it's really us. It's the team we've assembled. It's our leadership in the staffing industry. It's the brand and where we've positioned the brand. Good marketing and PR strategy. lots of things coming together at the right point in time where I feel like our brand has never been stronger. And all of that is coming to a head where that, along with the industry really exploding with growth, a lot of people taking note in the industry, has put together this perfect potion, if you will, of opportunity for AtWork. And we've really jumped on that opportunity and invested in the growth. And so we've seen tremendous growth. Last year we grew 56% revenue. I mean, it was unheard of where the industry is growing 7% or so. We're blowing the doors off revenue growth. Again, going back to that whole concept, franchise owners do it better, and we do it at a better profit margin than the rest of the industry, which is exciting as well, which means more dollars in our owner's pocket. On that same note, when you compare apples to apples, from a costing perspective, we're able to do it for less. Our fee structures are simplified. I hate the whole approach of a nickel and dime, FTD, and looking at your item 6 on your FTD. It's sometimes you got to start tallying all the different costs that come into play. We're one flat fee. We're one flat administrative and service royalty fee as a percentage of sales. We don't nickel and dime. We're not interested in that. We make it very simple for our franchise owners to understand our pricing concepts, and at the end of the day, they put more money on their bottom line. We grow, and we're excited to do it with them. So,
and certainly a well-rounded organization, gives back. And recently, you were honored with the Volunteer of the Year award from the American Staffing Association. Can you explain what that was about?
Wow, word travels fast then, huh? That was just last week, actually. I received that award, so thank you for recognizing that. So I've done a lot as an advocate for the staffing industry for really the last 6-7 years. I've been actively involved with the American Staffing Association, with staffing industry analysts, and really served to help help make the industry a better place for everybody, for all staffing companies. And again, I'll put on my a little bit of cocky hat for a minute, and I know our performance is better than the next guy. So if I can make it better for everybody, we're going to rise even higher than them. So I'm, that's, selfishly, I do a lot of that work really, to help us. But at the end of the day, it helps the entire industry, which helps our franchise owners, helps the AtWork brand grow and develop, and really positions us to be a leader in the staffing space. So when our prospective owners are qualifying us, when our prospective employees are looking to work for our owners, when our clients are looking at us, they see that AtWork it validates very well to everybody. And so these activities, I not only push myself, my operations and development team, I've encouraged them, and many of them have taken this opportunity to really get involved as well on a direct level as well with the American Staffing Association. I've actively, kind of extended the olive branch, and I'm trying to get more actively involved via the IFA as well, and I'm really excited about that, specifically around the joint employer piece. I've done so much work on that on a national level for staffing. I feel like there's some synergies there to work together, and I love the plug earlier. We actually have a few of our team going to be at the Emerging Franchise Show, so we'll have to hook up while we're there, guys. So.
I look forward to seeing you there. I hope you're there along with your folks, and certainly plan on attending our session. I would hope to see you there as well.
You got it. You got some people in the audience, man. You'll have at least 3 there. I'll tell you that. So.
Well, before we wrap it up, I wonder if there are any resource tools that you can offer to the audience, maybe any URLs to help them get some bullet points on some of the things that we've discussed here that they should be towing in and learning more about. And then, of course, we want to ask you if there are any other places that you're going to be expos or showcasing your brand and your opportunities that you'd want to share with the audience. And last of all, how they can find you to get further information and contact you directly.
Wow, so much good information to share with so little time. Well, obviously from just a risk mitigation perspective, we spent a majority of the call talking about that side of it. I would recommend if somebody's not members of SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, it's very, very cheap to buy a membership for the year. It's in the $100 and something, I believe. I would highly suggest to check that out. They've got lots of great tools and resources from the other side of the desk for us in the staffing world, talking around how to mitigate joint employer type issues. Obviously, join the IFA if you haven't done so already. I think that's a given. You've got to look at that. But there's lots of great resources from a free perspective. If you look at some of the employment law firms, Littler Mendelson is a phenomenal employment law firm, and they've got lots of great white papers they publish, along with Jackson Lewis, a competitor on a national level. Check their blogs out, and they've got lots of great white papers around how to mitigate risk in that space from an employment perspective. In regards to where we're going to be, hopefully everywhere. You guys will see us at all the different shows. I know we're attending all of the regional franchise expos, so you'll see us advertise there. But you can always check us out on our website, atwork.com, that's ATWORK.com, or my LinkedIn page, and we post all of our different goings-on there, our Twitter feed, Facebook, all the gamut of social media that we have out there as well, too. So I highly encourage you to check us out. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to chat further. It's open door policy, so if you ever want to give me a ring, please feel free.
Jason, that's a tremendous amount of information that we shared. We covered a ton of real estate in a very short period of time, and we can't thank you enough for joining us on Franchise Today and sharing all of your nuggets with our audience.
Oh, it's been awesome. Paul, Stan, thank you guys so much for the opportunity. And again, if I can ever help in the future, please feel free to let me know.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks.
Well, Stan, I think we could create one heck of a white paper on all the discussions that we've had about employment issues, NLRB, overtime rules. Last week we had Mel Kleiman on. I mean, who spoke specifically about it. Today's show again. I know it's not an exciting topic, but it's something that's real and everybody needs to be aware of.
I think life serves up what you need more so than what you may want, and we're at this critical juncture in the time continuum, Paul. We started talking about time and how quickly it's moving. We continue to race more and more quickly toward an election. We're moving into a time where a great many things have changed over the last 2 or 3 years, and I'm suspecting that some of those changes are going to be eclipsed by the changes we see coming over the next 3 or 4. So I don't think we can talk enough about it. And while it might not have, as you said, the greatest of entertainment value, if our audience isn't spending as much time focused on these topics as they should, perhaps we'll just help that along a little bit by bringing more and more of it to you here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, enjoy your time at the upcoming Emerging Brands Conference. I'm kind of jealous and envious in the same sentence that I will not be able to attend. I really was looking forward to that, but obviously I can't be in 2 places at one time. Although if I was, I'd probably be 2 equal-sized guys and have some place to spend.
Well, I'm feeling a sigh of relief in knowing I have at least 3 seats filled in our session upcoming, so I didn't know that before today's call.
Well, that's great. All right, Stan, another good show. Thank you again to Jason Leverant for being our guest today. Until next week, my name is Paul Segreto, wishing you the best, the very best in this great, great thing we call franchising. And Franchise Today is out.
When it's PCS time, you know the drill. Pack, research the new base, get the kids in school, because family supports family. At American Public University, we support military families with flexible, affordable online education that moves with you. As a military spouse, your tuition rate is the same as your partner's, just $250 per credit hour. American Public University, education that moves with you. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.